Good evening. Welcome to the Charter Township of Kalamazoo regular meeting, and this is for March 25, 2024. And the first thing is do the Pledge of Allegiance. And Trustee Liddy, would you lead us on the pledge, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Trustee Liddy. The next thing is roll call, and we do have one member short. I did get an email from Ashley, and so I'd like to make a motion to excuse.
Support.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carried. Thank you. I don't see any additions or deletions from the agenda unless you folks have got something. Okay. Thank you. So the next thing we'll go down to public comments. You have 3 minutes. Please come up to the podium. Give us your name and where you live. We'll be glad to listen to you for 3 minutes.
Since I came down here, I'll say something. 3743 Gull Road, Mike Seals. I just want to reiterate the pedestrian traffic problem on Gull Road, and that we really need to resolve this issue with crossing between the major bus stops between Big Bend and New Village. I think it's New Village Apartments. I see a lot of people walking through back and forth between those bus stops, and we still haven't rectified anything by even putting down a crosswalk or something. People are not slowing down. I'm sure Brian knows that. Gull Road is a drag strip right now. We still have a lot of people going up and down the road speeding, and I do see your officers out there. So pass on to your officers, thank you for getting out there and patrolling our street, because it's been really congested lately, but I really want to keep pushing this pedestrian issue that needs to be dealt with. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else, please?
So, Tony Kennedy, 1114 Arthur Avenue, Township. So I wanted to say thank you. I see that Arthur Avenue is on the list to be done. I'm hoping this is the year. And I also wanted to say that I went to the Kalamazoo County Road Commission's open house the other day, and what a dynamic building and a good show, I'll say. Was put on a great tour. So if you have not had that opportunity to go and take a look and get a tour, you really should. They are really up to date, and there's a lot of good things that I believe will be happening as a result of the changes that they're making. So, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else, please? Mr. Kowalski, is there anybody on Zoom?
Go ahead and unmute yourself, and you'll have 3 minutes to speak to the board.
Thank you. Can everyone hear me all right?
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Attorney Sam Gilbertson, and I am here on behalf of Orange Tree Properties, LLC. They're the owner of record of 1100 Foster Avenue. I'm here at the suggestion of Attorney Sieber to discuss a matter that we've been working on together. 1100 Foster Avenue was found in zoning violations, and primarily due to accessory buildings in the floodplain. And there were notices of those violations sent to an address that was not the record address of the property owner, nor was the notice sent to the owner itself, or the property itself. And as a result, my client received no notice of the violation, the judgment, and then the resulting daily fines that began to accrue. This occurred for several years without my client being aware of the fines accruing. until they learned in December of 2022 that $45,000 worth of fines were now being assessed against the property added to the tax bill. At this time, I was retained and immediately began working with Attorney Seaver and my clients to bring the property into compliance. We also discussed the notice issue and the fact that my clients had not received notice. And Attorney Seaver and I worked through that for quite some time. After months of dialogue, Attorney Seaver indicated that once the property was brought into compliance, the fine of $45,000 would be something that she would suggest dropping as long as her attorney fees were paid in the amount of $2,500. Those would be reimbursed to the township. My client has agreed to that arrangement. Again, it was unaware of the fines, but does find it equitable to reimburse the township for the attorney fees expended. And so that is why we're here today, is to explain that to this board. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions?
I would just like to ask Attorney Seaver, are you going to address this in the attorney's report, or
I can, sure.
at least to the extent
Get you
of...
caught up, sure.
Thank you very much.
Okay. I think we're good. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You too. Is there anybody else? Mr. Kowalski.
Anybody else on Zoom that would like to speak to the board, please unmute yourself, and you'll have 3 minutes to speak to the board. Nobody is unmuting themselves at this point.
Okay, thank you. Clerk Mackey, you want to lead us on the consent agenda, please?
Yes, thank you. I move adoption of the consent agenda consisting of the approval of the minutes of the February 12th, 2024 Board of Trustees work session meeting, the minutes of the February 12th Board of Trustees meeting, the minutes of the February 21st, 2024 Board of Trustees special meeting, the minutes of the February 26th Board of Trustees meeting. Additionally, receipt of the Fire Department report for February of 2024.
Oh, excuse me, did I hear the payment of the bills? Did you
Oh.
read
No,
that?
that was on a new sheet that you put on your desk. We just got it.
Oops. Thank you. All right. Additionally, payment of the bills in the amount of $80,007.73.
Support.
Motion made and supported. Any questions or comments? Trustee Ludi.
Well, I woke up this morning and went, you know what? I've overlooked looking at the payment of the bills. And then I went to my computer and looked at the electronic agenda again and said, oh, I guess there aren't any, because I know staff has been out on a training. So I didn't inquire any further, because I thought there's a good excuse why maybe we're not seeing that in our agenda. But I like to review those. I feel uncomfortable approving a payment of bills that I've not seen. I think it'd be irresponsible of me to say yes, payment of bills when I have not seen them.
Trustee Ludi, I'm not disagreeing with you, but I've got a couple of things. Our clerk is out till Thursday. I've got some bills that are past due because of them being off that need to be paid. And I've already talked to the treasurer tonight, and I will probably talk to our person that's helping us out and see if we can come up with something and get that bill paid. So I'm not disagreeing with you in one aspect, but that's one of the problems it is when you don't have a backup system here to back it up so you don't have this problem.
And these are bills that you, Supervisor, have been able to review and you feel comfortable with?
Yes.
Okay, that means a lot, even though I have not seen them, but
Right.
at least some of
I've
the
seen
boards-
those, but then I've got another one I came in today that is way past due, so that has to get taken care of too, so.
Trustee Ludi, I've also looked at all of them, so I feel comfortable signing off on them as well.
Let me probably explain a little bit better, maybe for some of you ones that don't know. When the bills come in, they go through the department head for his area, for each department head, and then they come to the clerk, and then they come to me. And if there's a manager or a superintendent, it would go to them. We go through every bill for the township. So we have to sign off on it, so. I mean, I'm not trying to put anything over it.
No, I mean, I really appreciate.
I just don't like the system either. I don't like
Yeah.
where we're at.
And I was aware of a couple bills being overdue because
Right.
of a logistical problem. And I hate to have a vendors, I never want a vendor to be waiting for money to pay for their kids' shoes, and their groceries.
Well,
So-
I just don't want to lose people that we have paid bills to and have to look for somebody else.
That's right.
So-
And take care of our vendors because they take care of us.
Exactly, so.
Yeah.
Our in-house stuff, we have to clean up
Okay,
ourselves, so.
well, thank you for explaining that.
Okay? Attorney Miller.
Thank you. I would just like to say that before checks get sent out, I reviewed the invoices as well. So they're not on their way out yet.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Mark? Okay. All right. So, got a motion on the floor and a second to go ahead and approve the bills. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carried. Thank you. Okay, fire department report, which we've received. There is no public presentation, there is no old business, so we move right down to new business. And the first one is a request to adopt the floodplain ordinance and intergovernmental agreement with CABA. Madam Attorney, you want to lead us on this?
So because you're a charter township, you're going to accept it for first reading tonight. This matter was engendered by the creation of new flood maps by FEMA. So the whole county got new flood maps, and what that means then is they go and say to you, we need you to adopt a new ordinance that addresses the floodplain. Now, Kalamazoo Township already participates in the floodplain. You do it through your building department, through CABA. You've already basically done all of this, except it wasn't as easy as just changing the data on the ordinance. We had to adopt the exact ordinance that FEMA sent to us. You've already been pre-approved with the ordinance that is in front of you. So that is for first reading. That does address the new maps that have been provided to Mike Allwine. And then we have this intergovernmental agreement, which is a resolution. So what we're gonna do is ask the supervisor to sign the resolution, and then we're gonna send that to CABA. The reason that CABA is called Community B is because it's a separate municipal entity. So basically, you've turned over all of your building permit applications and things like that over to CABA. And because it took a while for FEMA to figure out that where Community B is CABA is actually a separate municipal entity. So they are going to now have you adopt that resolution, and then we'll have to send it over to Mike Allwine. He's ready for it to come. I did talk to them a little bit this week, and I made it for Randy Thompson to sign since he is the person in charge of the CABA board right now.
Thank you. Trustee Luddy.
I just had a little awareness of this at the CABA board meeting last Tuesday. CABA is, as Mike Seals always reminds us, don't use acronyms, is Kalamazoo Area Building Authority. And that is, so I learned a little bit more about Richland Township situation and Comstock. Comstock has been working on this, and Richland, or along with the Kalamazoo Township. And when Attorney Seaver, when you say pre-approved, you mean like FEMA has given their blessing on the wording or the approach?
That's correct.
Okay.
Both.
Okay.
And it's really done through the state. There's an engineer at the state level who I've been sending everything to, and then she will come back and tell me, uh-oh, you need this one word changed, or you need some, so we're good. You're blessed. So is Richland and Comstock right now.
Well, thank you. It sounds straightforward, but I know behind the scenes there's a lot of work you've done, so thank you.
Trustee,
So did the, Madam Attorney, I read through this, but I don't recall whether there was a pre-existing ordinance. Does that get repealed by this ordinance explicitly or not?
I think what we'll do is that's been part of your code of ordinances. And so when I put it into the code, I will remove the old language, because it certainly does replace the old language. You might remember in the past that what you had was you said, here's my page numbers on the individual firm numbers. And this time it's just said, we're gonna adopt the whole county. It's applicable to Kalamazoo Township to the extent that you have flood in your area.
Sure.
It sounded easier, but really it was much more difficult because she did not want me to just take the old ordinance and change the wording.
And Mr. Supervisor, do you have a copy of the maps?
No, I will have. I know who's got them.
Oh, okay.
Did you get them?
No, I've not
Okay,
gotten
I
it.
got them from Richland, so.
Okay.
And they're supposed to be online except for the website was down. so.
I'm eager to take a look whenever.
Yeah, okay.
Can I ask you what form are they? Because they used to be more of like a map, like a 9-inch tall by 4-inch wide foldable map. And then Richland Township was describing this giant aerial photo that occupies a wall on their boardroom.
Yeah.
I was like hoping it was going to be more manageable for developers and others to look at.
So, what's come through now is this study, right, where they went to all the quadrants of the townships, and all the areas, and it's about 8.5 by 14.
Okay.
And it's probably 60 pages.
Okay.
So that study is referred to in your ordinance, and then the map that's a result of the study, and that is online in Adobe once it gets up. So
Right.
you can actually press it and find it now. I believe Richland printed their own,
Yep.
which, because they've got, you know, lakes up there, it was a little more. You may want to print your own, you don't have to, but the important thing is that Mike has access to it.
Yep. Good. Do I hear a motion from anybody?
I would like to move adoption of the floodplain ordinance and the intergovernmental agreement with CABA,
Second.
Except for first reading?
accepted for first reading.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay, we'll do a roll call vote, and we'll start off with Trustee Ludi,
Aye.
Trustee Miller,
Aye.
Trustee Robinson,
Aye.
Clerk Mackey,
Aye.
Treasurer Miller,
Aye.
and I'm aye. Thank you.
Do you want to wait on the resolution until your ordinance is effective? Which will be at your next meeting?
Yeah, we can, probably.
I'll put it back on in the next.
Sounds good.
I'll make a separate
Okay.
agenda item for that.
That sounds good, thank you. All right. Okay, our next one is a request to amend the code for misdemeanor ordinance and return litter ordinance to the municipality for civil infraction. Madam Attorney, you want to start off, and then if not, we got the police chief in the back room to pitch hit if you have to.
I explained this a little bit last month, what happened when you adopted a code of misdemeanor ordinances for the police department. The litter ordinance, which is a municipal civil infraction, was inadvertently put into the misdemeanor code, which then was caught by somebody at the court, who then refused all of Rob McCain, your ordinance officer's tickets for litter, which gave him a mild heart palpitations. So what I did was I got a hold of Scott Jackson, and he and I worked through this change. I went out and got the statute for misdemeanor litter violation, and I recopied it and put it instead of ordinance 350 in the misdemeanor ordinances. Then I readopted ordinance 350, which is the litter ordinance, as a municipal civil infraction like it belongs. And then we made the change into the body of ordinance 350 by indicating that you now have weekly trash collection by the Kalamazoo Township contractor. And this one is ready for adoption because you accepted it for first reading at your last meeting.
Thank you.
And it will make Rob McCain very happy.
Yes. Any questions or comments? Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to adopt ordinance number 640, amending the Code of Criminal Ordinances litter section and reinstating ordinance number 350, litter, as a municipal civil infraction, and recognizing that trash collection is weekly.
Thank you.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to go ahead to amend the ordinance, the code for misdemeanor ordinance. Do I have any questions or comments before I call the motion? Thank you. We'll start off with Treasurer Miller,
Aye.
Trustee Clerk Mackey,
Aye.
Trustee Robinson,
Aye.
Trustee Miller,
Aye.
Trustee Ludi,
Aye.
and I'm aye. Thank you. Okay, the last one here is probably gonna need help on this. I'll go back to the legal thing here. This is the ADA resolution agreement with the Department of Justice. Madam Attorney.
So you might recall that there were a couple of complaints filed against the township respecting the sidewalks in the township. That there was one with the state of Michigan, and then the other one was a federal one that went to the Department of Justice. The state of Michigan one has been dismissed. The Department of Justice has submitted to you this settlement agreement, basically saying, we don't think you've done anything wrong, but we'd like to tweak your procedures and get them up to date so that they match what the ADA requires now. So what this is a proposal for a settlement agreement, and they're just asking you to consider whether you sign this, and then it's going to cause us to implement a new policy, including the appointment of an ADA coordinator for the township. So if anybody's volunteering, let me know. And there's some other things that we have to post, and there's some notices we have to give to the department heads. Much of it's pretty easy.
I thought I saw a hand up on my far left.
Well, I'll raise mine anyhow.
Okay. Okay, Mark. I'm just waiting, I don't care.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, Madam Attorney, has the other party to this original complaint agreed to this, or he doesn't get to, or how is all that
He
worked out?
doesn't get to agree to this. Basically, what it is the Department of Justice saying to you, you just need to update your procedures and we'll dismiss the complaint. So as long as we're willing to do that, we sign on this, and then we're going to have to get to work on updating the procedures.
And you're recommending that we do so?
I am, yes.
Okay. Anybody else?
Well, I guess
Trustee Lee.
if I'm using the right term, Attorney, is that I'd like to move acceptance or adoption of the ADA resolution agreement with the Department of Justice.
Support.
Would you authorize Don to sign that?
And to authorize the supervisor to sign.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any other questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll start off with Trustee Ludi.
Aye.
Trustee Miller.
Aye.
Trustee Robinson.
Aye.
Clerk Mackey.
Aye.
Treasurer Miller.
Aye.
And I'm aye. Thank you. There was nothing removed from the consent agenda, so we'll go down. Did I miss something?
I'll do it.
Okay, there's nothing moved from the consent agenda, so we'll move down to board member reports, and we'll start off with Trustee Ludi.
Well, thank you. I just wanted to highlight from our consent agenda, there was the February 2024 Fire Department report, and if I read that right, it was 266 alarms were recorded for the month, the 29 days of February in the sleep year. And that just, it's just hard for me to wrap my brain around when I look at the type of incidences and how they're described. So that's a little more than 9 incidents a day that our fire department and oftentimes our police department also respond to. And it just ranges from all these life-altering incidences, 9 a day, ranging from trouble breathing to vehicle accidents to chest in the pain in the chest, and actual building fires. It just blows my mind, the intensity of the work of our fire department and support with the police department as reflected in this report. I also wanted to share, I think I may have come close to answering a question that Supervisor Martin has had for many months about our street lights. We know with our conversion of our street lights from high pressure sodium, which is the less efficient for energy, toward LEDs, light emitting diodes, no acronym there, and that we know it's making an impact environmentally, but Supervisor Martin said, well, how much is it saving us? And I think I calculated in February that the equivalent 54-watt LED compared to the older 124-watt high-pressure sodium saved the township about $4.47 per lamp in February. It's like $4.47, big deal. But we have 413 54-watt LEDs, and then that's just highlighting that size. There's other ones as well. So it's a sizable chunk of change that we're saving every month, as well as helping the environment. I also wanted to mention that there's in process is the Stroud Family Parks nets for the pickleball and tennis are being raised, and also I picked up litter there today. I have to say that I still would welcome any volunteers who are interested in picking up litter in our parks, no matter what time schedule they want to do it, once a month, 1 hour a month is always just a glorious help, because I picked up, I think, 4 Chick-fil-A litter things. Chick-fil-A is winning this year, and then liquor bottles are right behind that. But then over at Wilson Recreation Area, where we've had a couple recent improvements to playground area, a baby swing was vandalized. It was like chemically burned, it looks like, and then it was sliced at the bottom. And we just replaced that less than 9 months ago. So we're in the process again of replacing that as well. I guess I wanted to highlight a little bit more about our non-motorized, because we talked about an ADA. We put a light on the ADA, but if we're able to succeed with our work that we planned for 2024, which looks like we have a contractor who's willing to work, and all the COVID interruptions, by the end of 2024, it looks like we will have, in the last 9 years, replaced 99 orphaned corners where the sidewalk ends before it actually reaches the street, or it ends at a curb, which is not manageable with someone in a wheelchair or a baby stroller. And then over 160 spot repairs, where spot repair is a slab of concrete that needed to be repaired because it was 2 inches or more elevation change than the one next to it. So that creates a tripping hazard, or again, a wheelchair barrier. And of course, we've done over 3 miles of new sidewalks, and we continue to offer residents our sidewalk replacement program access, where you can seek reimbursement for up to $500 worth of sidewalk work that you may have done on your own to improve your property for the road right-of-way sidewalk. So those are important highlights. And I was working with our attorney, Seth Coaches. He just always is praising the townships. Like, there's no other township that puts the effort and money into improving non-motorized to make it more able for all people of all abilities to get to a bus stop, to get to school, to walk for fitness, or to walk over to a neighbor's house to borrow sugar. We take that real seriously and have done a lot of important progress. So I just wanted to highlight that.
Thank you. Trustee Miller.
First, I want to thank Trustee Ludi for the calculations on the LED replacement streetlights. It is confirmation that both the financial and the environmental benefits are aligned the same direction, which always makes things better and easier. So that doesn't sound like a whole lot, but as he points out, I just want to underline it again, we have a lot of streetlights, and multiplied out, that's a significant savings. I do not have a substantive report for the PAC committee because we have not yet met to consider the applications for the superintendent position, but I counted them just before coming here, and we have 100 applications. So more on that later. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Robinson.
I don't really have a report tonight. I was going to kind of touch what Trustee Miller just said. So clearly the PAC committee, we have a tall task ahead of us. I do want to thank Trustee Miller because he did put together an Excel spreadsheet that has made our lives much easier in order to be able to weed through the applications as they come in. But it is definitely a tall order, and hopefully we will be back real soon with something to bring to the table. Thank you.
Thank you. Clerk Mackey.
I don't have a report for tonight, thank you.
Treasurer Miller.
I just want to thank the employees here at the township for continuing to come to work every day and do their job. hoping that some resolution will come quickly for some leadership here in the Township Hall. Thank you.
Thank you. Just a couple of things that Trustee Louis brought up about the number of calls that the fire department responds to. He would be appalled the number of calls that the police department responds to. More than what I ever thought. We are working on the contract with Parchment and to serve them fire protection. And we've had a contract with them. We've had 2 contracts with them. Now we're working on a 3rd one, and we'd like to make this a 10-year contract. So I was trying to crunch numbers to see where we're at. So I had the liability, or not liability, I had the option to get the information I want to get out of Central Dispatch. So I got some numbers, and I was taken back about how many calls that the police department responds to. I'll never say how many calls the fire department responds to anymore, because they're way higher than there, way higher. So good job of both guys. I'm telling you what, both services that we have, police and fire, they don't sit still. And the days of guys sitting where they always used to say, sit around eating donuts, firefighters, I mean, police officers too, that's not anymore. They run their mobile offices all over the township. And as you see, we've got people moving all the time to take calls one after another. So I want to thank everybody and hope everybody stays safe. So I want to thank everybody as we went through this PAC thing, going through the 100 ones that we've got, and we've got narrowed down. We're going to have a meeting this week, and then we're going to try to bring something forward to this board and try to get this thing settled so we can move on to other things we need to do. So that's all I have, and I'll turn it over for attorney reports.
I've never talked this much at a meeting. So first off, the easy thing, the planning commission, I believe, is undertaking the master plan, and it's likely to recommend to the township board that you approve the master plan at your next board meeting. I did do a notice, so hopefully that'll be a huge project undertaken and completed. The harder part is addressing this Orange Tree Properties matter. The property at 1100 Foster did have the placement of 2 buildings that had not received any zoning or building code approval. They were in the floodplain. We wrote them citations under the zoning ordinance. I believe that Mr. Kowalski was there on site at one point and talked to the owner. The owner's name is Mr. Luteen, Luiten. He's still the taxpayer. When we give notices, we give notices to the taxpayer. We did have an opportunity at one point to talk to a person from Vice that was working on some kind of way to address the buildings. And so at that point, I had to draft up a forbearance agreement saying I'm not going to charge you what ended up being $375 a month because it was by building. So every time you had a building, the pay, it was just going up and up, and they just never dealt with the removal of the buildings. At some point, Treasurer Miller then notified them, hey, gee, your bill's now $45,000, you need to pay up, which I believe got their attention, but got the attention of Attorney Gilbertson, who then got a hold of me and said, wait a minute, you never told me. So we've agreed to disagree, I think, with respect to that. I did indicate that $45,000 in daily fines may be a little excessive. It may be hard for you to get that past a judge at this point. I can tell you when we do them, you have a fine that's there every month, which is a judgment, okay? And then we also did a lien, which if I remember correctly is somewhere around $8,000, which represented 1 year of fines. So by hook or by crook, the buildings are now removed. We have sent Rob McCain out quite a few times to check on it. We have sent Kyle out a few times. Everything's in compliance today, maybe as of about a month and a half ago. So the issue becomes like, what will the township be willing to accept in terms of a fine that's perhaps something less than the $45,000, but also is able to make you whole. So I had calculated my attorney's fees at $2,500. I said I would, calculate that and present it. I understand that Treasurer Miller then wished to add the fees that were charged by Kyle Mucha and also potentially that. by Rob McCain. I believe there may be another number out there. I'm certainly happy to present that to Mr. Gilbertson. If we get an acceptance of a number, then it will be up to me to, number one, get the lien removed, and number two, go and file to remove all of those individual monthly fines, which is a form, which I unfortunately have to do one for each. So one for every month for the last probably 3 or 4 years. And then I'm going to send all those into the court and they'll freak out. But what that does is it removes the fine, because what it does now is it shows on, any credit report or anything like that. So it's still showing $45,000 or something less than that. I did see a court case today in which a fine of almost $800 was presented to the judge, different judge, and he decided that it was worth 75 or 25 bucks. So if that gives you any kind of idea, I think what we have to do is figure out what's fair to the township and what it's going to take in order to get the number down to something that the applicant here, who is Orange Tree, is willing to pay to just close out these fines. I will say that when this is added to the taxes, what happens is all of a sudden, you're looking at March and you're looking at, gee, that's past due taxes. And so I removed it from past due taxes so that it did not get messed up with the county. I just wasn't ready to do that. So that's kind of sitting there. It's not going to show this year. So what you're dealing with is the daily fines, somewhere around $45,000, and the lien, which is somewhere around $8,000, and a document that I would have to prepare to remove all of those and what it will take for you all to do that. I'm not sure, I believe that your finance director did come up with a number of about 3,200, and I think your treasurer may have another number today.
Thank you. One of the things, I'll get you to Mark. One of the things I want to make sure is that McKenna's and Sons, we can track their hours, how much it costs, what our cost is there, along with Rob's cost, along with the time with Fire Marshal was out there, and your cost. We want to make sure we get our cost in there to start with, and then decide what we want to go from there.
And I think that was the hard part, was what are the costs? I know mine.
Right.
But I didn't know what kind
Sure.
of the others were.
Mark?
But is this a question which the township board needs to approve or not?
Yes. At this point, I need to know what number and.
Okay, so that will be coming back to us, you're telling me?
Or do you want to do it tonight?
If you're willing to debate it tonight, I'm willing to take it to Mr. Gilbertson. He's still on the phone, so up to you.
I didn't mean to suggest that we do it tonight if we don't have all the information that we might need, but I was just asking whether this is something the board does need to approve.
I believe that the treasurer may have a better accounting as of today, and so I'm happy to write that down and send it over to Mr. Gilbertson if you think that's appropriate.
Thank you. I'm just going to call on their treasurer.
Thank you. I really feel that it would be beneficial to have a conversation with the supervisor on this issue as well. I did speak with our finance person earlier today, and coming up with actual numbers. I just want to make sure that the township is made whole for the amount of money that's been spent. This has been ongoing for 4 years. When Patrick Hudson was here as our part-time planner, all the way up to now. So, and our fire marshal did write a ticket several years ago. So, it's a little further discussion. We should have something ready, I would say, within a week.
I will say that the cost for your typical ordinance enforcement case is $200. That's what you pay.
Right.
So just the sheer numbers tells you kind of how much more work this particular one was.
Right.
We got to compliance, which is what we're after, but it was considerably more time than typical case takes.
Right.
Any other questions or comments? Trustee Ludi.
I'm not pressuring the board at all to take action, but would there be any advantage for all the work that the attorney has outlined, what she's working on now, what she's worked on in the past, what she's going to be working on most immediately, and then working in the courts to clean everything up? if there's any advantage for us to try to take some expedited action today. The only thing I would think that might be acceptable would be to authorize the supervisor to receive all of the variables that we discussed, fire marshal, zoning administrator, attorney, all the costs that might be associated with that, and authorize our supervisor to then make a decision whether to accept that or not, if that made life easier for the attorney.
I mean, it certainly does if we can write out some kind of a number between these two and perhaps be able to present it. And then if that works for everybody, we're good to go. And I'll bring it back to the board next time.
But I'm motivated with this idea is that, you know, we have the attorney on the line as well, on Zoom, and he's showing good faith. And because I was participated in the planning commission meetings where we had vice associates at the meeting, I thought we're good. We have a excellent planning firm. We're going to keep moving forward, and then just everything got stuck in the mud again. And now I understand tonight a little bit more about why that happened. But I appreciate the attorney raising the points that we made all the due process communications and notifications with the property owner. And, you know, it wasn't like bad government. We hid this and for 4 years didn't tell anybody. There wasn't action on both sides of the table to make it move forward. So I appreciate the attorney who's on Zoom now helping us to resolve this situation. We want to make that easier to get to the end. So I guess in that case, I would like to make a motion to authorize the supervisor to collect the information from the multiple variables and then make it, the authorization would allow him to make a decision on behalf of the board.
Transmit that to Mr. Robertson, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, for further discussion with the attorney.
I just have a question because I think that still as a board, we would need to have what is the minimum that is acceptable because we still have to put a stopping point on there. Okay, this is because we have what the lien is 8. Then the other fees I think was thrown out is the $2,500 attorney fees plus the $3,200 in addition to that, plus the hours that are still being accrued right now as we speak. So what is the minimum that you allow the supervisor to then say, okay, well, this is the least amount that is acceptable? Because I think if we say allow the supervisor to make the decision, we still need to make sure that we as a board are saying this is the bare minimum that is acceptable. And I think I would be more comfortable if we knew exactly what all the numbers were. Just, you know.
And to be fair, I think that 3,200 included what the finance director felt was the time for the zoning administrator, Mr. Plosky, and the ordinance enforcement officer, I think. So that may be what the calculation is from her perspective. I don't know where we're at with respect to the rest of it.
Anybody else before I say anything? Okay.
I believe that we have a motion on the floor right now from trustee Ludes, right?
That's right.
I'll support it for the sake of further discussion.
Okay. And I guess I got lost in writing down, what was your motion?
Motion was to authorize the supervisor to make a decision once these variables, and that would be like Trustee Robinson was talking about, what would be the minimum? The minimum would be to full cost accounting to cover our expenses for the ordinance enforcement officer, the zoning administrator, fire marshal, and our attorney. But if the board is not comfortable with that, would rather see the number, I'm comfortable with that way too. I just was trying to help the process move.
I can do that right now if you want to. I've been sitting here going back and forth with you unless you want to wait for a couple of days or two, so. Or you want to just go ahead on the numbers that we have for the minimum and then.
I appreciate Steve's motion, So just getting the numbers concrete, yes. Because I did not think of the additional work that our attorney is going to have to do to finish this. So we might want to consider that, but again, if we can just take a few more days to have this conversation.
We can certainly put it as an agenda item next board meeting if you want to do that. And if you want to communicate with me, I can certainly get hold of Mr. Gilbertson.
But we can do that.
Can you get closer to your mic, please?
Sorry?
Can you get closer to your mic?
I should do this all day. So I just indicated that if they can put the number together for me, I would get it to Attorney Gilbertson, and then we can put it on the board agenda for the next board meeting.
Thank you.
So would I formally then withdraw my motion? Is that, okay, I withdraw my motion.
Okay? Anybody else? All right. Madam Attorney, you have anything else?
No, I think I'm done. No, I think I'm done.
All right. This is the second time for public comment. You got 3 minutes. Please come to the podium. Tell us who you are and where you live.
Good evening, Mike Borsma, Road Commissioner in Kalamazoo County. Just want to come and to let the board know that we've had 2 public meetings on project meetings with regards to projects that are taking place in Kalamazoo Township. We had a meeting regarding the Squires Drive and Drake Road improvements. That was well attended. I think we had 80 some odd people attend that meeting. We also have had a public project meeting regarding the Davis Olmsted drain replacement. For those of you who don't know about the Davis Olmsted drain replacement, Kalamazoo Township is paying $0 for 2 culverts that are being replaced. And drain improvements along the Davis Olmsted drain, which runs just east of the fairgrounds in the Lakewood neighborhood. So that project is being paid for by the Superfund, the Kalamazoo River Superfund site. So it's, I don't know, I believe it's around 1.2 million in total. The Road Commission will be replacing 2 culverts. One of them is on Market Street. I think there's another street that we're replacing a culvert on. The Drain Commission will be upgrading and restoring much of Davis Creek along that stretch, from Olmsted Street towards the river. So that will be a very nice improvement to that neighborhood. Third project, I don't know that we've had a meeting yet, will be on Douglas Avenue. We're going to be resurfacing Douglas Avenue from city limits up to Mazel, resurfacing it, doing some drainage improvements and all of that. The Road Commission has also adopted the local road contract for Kalamazoo Township, which includes Arthur Street. So we will be working on that throughout the summer. And finally, the Road Commission has a brand new headquarters on 4400 South 26th Street over in Comstock. So for those of you who weren't able to come out last Thursday evening, set up a meeting and we'll take you through for a tour of the new facilities. So with that, thank you.
Thank you. And talk about the Davis Creek project. I know it's been about a year and a half ago when we were out there looking at that. We did, I'm trying to name now, where Bob lives on. Yeah,
Bob Vanderpump?
yeah, what street does he live on?
Stewart?
Stewart, yeah, Stewart. We did Stewart back about 5 years ago now, and now we're gonna do Market. We're going back to the north there. And we looked at that when they're cleaning it out, and that's really exciting to get that cleaned out, open it up, and get the culverts in there. That'd be a huge improvement for that area. So I'm really excited to see that happen because it's long overdue. A lot of this stuff is overgrown and it needs to be cleared out. And so I know they had a plan about a year and a half ago what they wanted to do there, and so I'm glad to see that move forward. So thank you on that. Squires Drive there, I see they've got that pretty well. They're cleaning that back both directions. So I know they're going to start doing some more work in there as they start getting into the roundabout area, as far as on Drake Road there too. I know they've done some cleaning there. Question for you about Douglas Avenue there. You're going to repave from the city limits to Mazel. Are you doing anything as far as widening any curbs or anything? What I'm looking at is 131 gets done now, and we're going to have a lot more truck traffic coming down there, and they'll be coming down Douglas Avenue to get on the penetrator to go up that way. Is there any changes there?
For right now, I believe it's just going to be repaving and some drainage improvements along Douglas Avenue. I think the longer term plan is as 131, the business loop or the business route is upgraded. We'll start looking at the need for improving Douglas Avenue, possibly Mazel, and Pitcher Street, and some of the primary roads on the north side of Kalamazoo Township.
Well, the 131 is supposed to be done by 2025 of Christmas of 2025, so that's a 2-year road down the road there.
Yeah.
And so that's on the fast track. My concern is that if we tear up a road and we repave it, and I'm looking especially at Douglas at Mazel there, where you got the turning lanes there, you can't get semis around those corners without taking 2 lanes there. So something needs to be done there. So I think now's the time for your engineers to take a look at what they want to do, so we don't pave it and turn it back up and pave it again. I mean, I know it's your money, because it's not ours, so Douglas, we don't pay for that, that's not a local road, but it does make good sense for us to make sure we're doing the same thing.
I'm sure that the engineers are aware of that, and what will go into our capital improvement plan in the future is in terms of specific upgrades to the intersection, to get trucks from the penetrator onto Mazel and then ultimately over to Pitcher Street.
Right.
Is just going to be, they'll let the commissioners know once that's further down the line. So I'm sure it's in the pipeline. It's just, I haven't heard about it. I will let the staff at the road commission know, and they can be in contact with you.
Yeah, I'll talk with them, because we've got some property on Douglas Avenue that has been sold, that's going to be developed, and I know that's going to probably, if they put in what they said they're going to put in, they're talking about 150 trucks a day out of there. And if I take out 150 trucks a day out of there and 350 trucks out of Graphics a day, that's 500 trucks a day going down those roads.
Yeah.
So I just want to make sure that we do it the right way. So I'll get and talk to the engineers too, so thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Anybody else?
I have Mike Seals, 3743 Gold Road. Question for our attorney, Roxanne. After you put together this bill of $2,500, does that mean that $2,500 stops now? Or is that including having to do all those paperwork to get all them tickets off?
The paperwork to
Or paperwork
remove all
off.
those fines is largely the staff. We just have to look it up and
Okay.
produce the same thing over and over again. I have to sign my name 150 times. but it won't be a big charge to the township. But
Okay.
to answer your question, that 2,500 was somewhere around October that I calculated it, so there's probably a few more bills on there that I can pull and add to it.
All right, well, I appreciate you telling us that. And the other thing that I would say is that, you know, in a decision like this, I think it's appropriate that you wait. I'm glad that you decided to wait, because I think that we, the public, would like to know how this bill turns out, considering that it does affect what we voted you for. It's not that I don't trust you. It's just better transparency if we get to see those numbers at the next meeting. So I appreciate you being patient and waiting. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else, please?
This is your revolving door. So, Tony Kennedy, 1114 Arthur Avenue. So, just to tack on a little bit about what Mike said, you know, I do appreciate, honestly, I was jumping out of my chair when you came up with that motion to go ahead and give the supervisor the authority after the numbers to just go ahead and pretty much write a blank check. And my version, my words, was not yours, because I was thinking, okay, it's been 4 years, you guys have been after this group, they haven't done anything in 4 years, so now you got them into compliance, and so I think it's very important for the community to see and understand that, you know, you're getting the numbers right, things are working well. My God, great meeting today, because I'm the first to say when it's not. And I just kind of want to be sure that now that you have some of the public's confidence, that you don't go mess it up with starting to write, you know, just do things. I understood the past due bills. None of us should have past due bills, especially our township, because we trust our suppliers to come out and our partners to take care of business for us. But I do disagree wholeheartedly, and you wound up doing that too, that you should just kind of wait it out, work together, get the right numbers that's fair for the township and the defendants, for lack of a better way to say it. And so good job. I wanted to say that. So thank you for doing that.
Anybody else? Mr. Kowalski, is anybody on Zoom?
Anybody on Zoom that would like to speak to the board, this will be your final opportunity for the evening. Please unmute yourself. You have 3 minutes. Nobody is unmuting or raising their hands.
Okay, thank you very much. We are adjourned at 8:27. Thank you, folks.